You climb into bed, close your eyes, and let out a long sigh. Finally, peace. Finally, rest. After a long day of running errands, managing responsibilities, maybe caring for grandkids or dealing with the 1,000 little stresses that life throws at you, sleep feels like the reward you've earned. And for most of your life, it was exactly that, a sanctuary, a time when your body and mind could shut down, repair, and prepare for another day. But here's what most people over 50 never realize until it's too late. For hundreds of thousands of adults every single year, those quiet, dark hours between midnight and dawn become something far different. They become a death trap, heart attacks, strokes, sudden, silent, and often without a single warning sign that anyone recognizes before it's over. According to extensive research compiled by the American Heart Association, nearly half of all fatal cardiovascular events in adults over the age of 50 occur between 1 a.m. and 6 a.m. Let that sink in. Half, not a small fraction. This is not bad luck. This is not purely genetics. This is a pattern with identifiable, preventable causes. Today we're going to walk through the 5 most dangerous nighttime habits that affect adults over 50. For each one, I'll explain exactly what happens inside your body, what the research shows, and what you can do starting tonight to eliminate that risk. Let's begin. Number 1, eating late and heavy. The first deadly habit is one that millions of people practice every evening without a second thought. You finish work, you run errands, you maybe help with homework or cook for the family, and by the time you finally sit down to eat, it's 8:30, 9 o'clock, sometimes even later. You're hungry, you're tired, and you figure a full meal is exactly what you need to wind down. But here's what most people don't understand. After the age of 50, when you eat at night, and what you eat can literally determine whether your cardiovascular system rests peacefully or struggles desperately for hours while you're unconscious. When you consume a large meal late in the evening, especially after 8 p.m., several dangerous processes begin simultaneously in your body. Your digestive system suddenly demands a dramatically increased blood flow to process that food. Your heart has to pump significantly harder to supply adequate blood to your stomach, intestines, and digestive organs. Your blood pressure rises sharply, the exact opposite of the protective nocturnal dip your body needs. Your entire metabolism speeds up and becomes active precisely when it should be slowing down to prepare for restorative sleep. Let me put this in terms anyone can understand. Imagine you've been working a physically demanding job all day. Your muscles are tired, your joints ache, and you're finally lying down to rest. But just as you close your eyes, someone tells you that you have to do several more hours of intense labor before you're allowed to sleep. That's what you're doing to your heart with late, heavy meals. You're forcing it to work overtime at the exact moment when it needs rest the most. The research on this is compelling. A major longitudinal study published in the European Heart Journal followed over 100,000 adults for several years, tracking their eating patterns and cardiovascular outcomes. The results were both clear and deeply concerning. People who regularly consumed late dinners demonstrated a significantly higher risk of nighttime heart attacks and strokes compared to those who ate their final meal earlier in the evening. This wasn't a small difference. This was a substantial, measurable increase in life-threatening events. Why does late eating create such serious cardiovascular danger? Let me walk you through the mechanisms. First, late digestion dramatically raises triglycerides in your bloodstream. These are fats that promote arterial inflammation and plaque instability. When those plaques become inflamed, they're more likely to rupture. A ruptured plaque in a coronary artery can trigger a heart attack. In a cerebral artery, it can trigger a stroke. Second, eating late increases systemic arterial inflammation throughout your entire vascular system. Your arteries aren't just passive pipes, they're living tissue. When they're inflamed, they're more prone to spasm, to plaque formation, and to the kind of instability that leads to clots. Third, and perhaps most critically, late meals disrupt the normal protective drop in nighttime blood pressure. Instead of your cardiovascular system entering rest mode, it remains in an active stress mode for hours. Your sympathetic nervous system stays engaged. Stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline stay elevated. Your heart rate remains higher than it should be all night long. The good news is that correcting this single habit brings immediate measurable benefits that begin the very first night you implement the change. Earlier, lighter dinners allow your heart to truly rest during nighttime hours. Blood pressure stabilizes and enters that protective nocturnal dip. The risk of nocturnal cardiovascular events drops significantly. Your digestive system completes its work before you lie down, eliminating that increased demand on your heart during vulnerable sleeping hours. Number 2, skipping or mistiming medications. The second deadly habit is one that seems almost too simple to matter, but I promise you it's anything but simple. If you take medication for blood pressure, cholesterol management, or blood thinning, this section is absolutely critical for your survival. Please pay close attention. Blood pressure naturally follows a predictable daily rhythm. This is called your circadian blood pressure pattern. During active daytime hours, blood pressure remains elevated to support activity, movement, and metabolic demands. During nighttime sleep, it should drop significantly. That protective nocturnal dip we've been discussing. But in many adults over 50, particularly those with existing cardiovascular conditions or diabetes, this protective drop doesn't happen as it should. Or worse, blood pressure actually rises during nighttime hours. This dangerous pattern is called nocturnal hypertension, and it dramatically increases the risk of nighttime heart attacks and strokes. Your arteries, already potentially compromised by age-related changes and plaque buildup, face sustained high pressure for hours while you sleep, hours when they should be experiencing reduced pressure and reduced stress. Large-scale studies published in The Lancet, one of the most respected medical journals in the world, have shown something that should fundamentally change how we think about medication timing. Properly timed cardiovascular medication can reduce nighttime heart attack and stroke risk by nearly 50%. Nearly half. This isn't about taking different medications or higher doses. This is simply about taking the same medications at the optimal time for nighttime cardiovascular protection. But when you skip doses, even occasionally, or when you take your medication at the wrong time of day, you allow silent, dangerous blood pressure spikes to occur during sleep hours. Spikes you're completely unaware of because you're unconscious. These pressure spikes can rupture vulnerable fatty plaques that have built up in your arterial walls over years. They can dislodge fragments of plaque that travel through your bloodstream as emboli. They can form clots that travel to your heart, causing a heart attack, or to your brain, causing a stroke. And critically, they often strike without any warning symptoms you would recognize or respond to. So never skip doses casually. If you're having trouble remembering, use pill organizers, set phone alarms, put your medication next to your toothbrush, whatever system works for you. Your life may depend on this consistency. Number 3, undiagnosed or untreated sleep apnea. Now let's discuss the third deadly nighttime habit, one of the most underdiagnosed and undertreated issues in adults over 50, sleep apnea. Sleep apnea causes repeated cyclical pauses in breathing during sleep. These aren't brief pauses. They can last 10 seconds, 20 seconds, sometimes even 30 seconds or longer. Each pause drops oxygen levels in your bloodstream significantly. Each oxygen drop triggers an emergency physiological response throughout your entire body. Your heart suddenly speeds up, trying to compensate for reduced oxygen. Your blood pressure spikes, often to dangerously high levels. Stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol flood your system. Your brain partially awakens, often without you remembering it consciously, to restart breathing. Then you fall back asleep, your breathing stops again, and the entire dangerous cycle repeats. This can happen dozens, even hundreds of times per night in severe cases. Yet many people with sleep apnea have no conscious memory of these events. They simply know they wake up exhausted despite sleeping for 7 or 8 hours. Their bed partners, however, often know the truth. The snoring, the gasping, the choking sounds, these are the audible signs of a body struggling to breathe all night long. Large-scale studies from major universities, including research from Johns Hopkins, Harvard, and Stanford, have quantified the danger. Untreated sleep apnea triples the risk of nighttime heart attacks. It quadruples the risk of strokes. These aren't small increases. These are major, life-threatening elevations in risk. Let me explain what's happening on a physiological level. Each apneic episode causes your oxygen saturation to drop. Your body perceives this as a life-threatening emergency because, well, it is. In response, your sympathetic nervous system fires, releasing a flood of catecholamines, stress hormones that spike your heart rate and blood pressure. Your blood becomes more prone to clotting. Your arterial walls become more inflamed. Over months and years of this nightly assault, the cumulative damage to your cardiovascular system is profound. But the danger isn't just cumulative, it's also acute. During a severe apneic episode, the combination of low oxygen, high blood pressure, and sympathetic surge can be enough to trigger an immediate heart attack or stroke right there in the middle of the night. Critical warning signs include loud, chronic snoring that disturbs your partner or can be heard in other rooms, waking up gasping for air or choking, persistent morning headaches upon waking, extreme daytime fatigue and sleepiness despite adequate time in bed, blood pressure that's difficult to control despite medication, waking with a dry mouth or sore throat frequently, and if your bed partner has ever told you that you stop breathing during the night, that's not something to ignore. That's a medical alert. One of my patients thought her loud snoring was merely annoying to her husband. She had no idea she was stopping breathing repeatedly every night. One night, during a particularly severe apneic episode, her oxygen saturation dropped so low that her heart rhythm became unstable. She survived only because her husband recognized something was wrong and called emergency services immediately. Treatment with CPAP therapy, continuous positive airway pressure, completely changed her cardiovascular health and her quality of life. Her blood pressure stabilized, her daytime energy returned, and her risk of a nighttime cardiac event dropped dramatically. If you recognize these warning signs in yourself or someone you love, consult a sleep specialist. Sleep studies can now be done at home in many cases. This isn't just about comfort or snoring. This is about preventing serious cardiovascular events while you sleep. Number 4, going to bed dehydrated. Now let's move to the 4th deadly nighttime habit, one that many older adults adopt intentionally, believing it's actually protecting their sleep quality. This habit is going to bed in a dehydrated state. After the age of 50, something significant changes in your body's thirst signaling mechanism. The sensation of thirst, that urgent need to drink water, becomes progressively weaker and less reliable. Many older adults also intentionally limit their fluid intake in the evening hours, specifically to avoid waking up multiple times during the night to use the bathroom. On the surface, this strategy sounds completely practical and reasonable. You want uninterrupted sleep, so you reduce nighttime fluids. But in reality, this practice is extremely dangerous and significantly increases your risk of nighttime heart attacks and strokes. Here's what happens inside your cardiovascular system when dehydration occurs. When you're dehydrated, your blood volume decreases, and your blood becomes measurably thicker, more viscous, and more concentrated. This isn't a metaphor. This is an actual physical change in blood consistency. thicker, more viscous blood flows more slowly through your blood vessels. It encounters more resistance. It requires more pressure to move through your circulatory system. Slow-moving, viscous blood forms dangerous clots far more easily than properly hydrated blood. The cellular components, red blood cells, platelets, and clotting factors, have more opportunity to aggregate and stick together. Now combine this thickened blood with normal nighttime physiology. During sleep, your heart rate naturally slows. Your blood pressure should drop. But if your blood is thick and viscous, at the same time your circulation is naturally slowing, blood flow to critical organs, especially your heart muscle and your brain, can become dangerously reduced. This creates the conditions for ischemic events, which is tissue damage from inadequate blood flow. A comprehensive study published in the Journal of Cardiovascular Disease examined the relationship between hydration status and nighttime cardiovascular events. The findings were concerning. Even moderate dehydration, not severe, just moderate, raised the risk of nighttime cardiovascular events by over 60%. That means more than half again as likely to experience a heart attack or stroke during sleep simply from being inadequately hydrated. The solution to this dangerous habit is not complicated. Drink 1 full glass of water, about 8 ounces, approximately 1 to 2 hours before your planned bedtime. This timing gives your body time to process the fluid and eliminate excess before you lie down. Keep a glass of water by your bedside so that if you do wake during the night, you can take a few sips without having to get up. And pay attention to your hydration throughout the day. If you're consistently thirsty in the evening, you're likely not drinking enough during the day. Number 5, sleeping in a room that's too hot or too cold. The 5th deadly habit is one that most people never consider dangerous at all. In fact, it's often seen as a matter of personal comfort preference. But the temperature of your sleeping environment can have profound effects on your cardiovascular system throughout the night. When your body gets too cold during sleep, your blood vessels constrict. This is a natural survival mechanism designed to preserve core body heat by reducing blood flow to your extremities. But vasoconstriction means your blood vessels narrow, which increases peripheral resistance. Your heart has to work harder to pump blood through those narrowed vessels. Blood pressure rises, and that rise can persist throughout the night if your body remains cold. Conversely, when your room is too hot, you lose excessive fluids through sweating. You become dehydrated without even realizing it because the fluid loss is gradual and you're asleep. As we just discussed, dehydration thickens your blood and increases clotting risk. Hot environments also fragment your sleep, preventing you from reaching those deep, restorative stages where true healing occurs. Poor sleep quality is itself a risk factor for cardiovascular events. The optimal sleeping temperature for cardiovascular health is between 65 and 70 degrees Fahrenheit, or about 18 to 21 degrees Celsius. This range allows your body to maintain its core temperature without triggering excessive vasoconstriction or dehydration. Use breathable bedding materials like cotton or moisture-wicking fabrics. Layer your blankets so you can adjust easily if you become too warm or too cold during the night. I've seen patients who slept with electric blankets on high or in unheated rooms during winter, unaware that temperature extremes were spiking their blood pressure all night. Small adjustments to your thermostat can have significant protective effects. If you wake up sweating or shivering, your body is under unnecessary stress. The perfect storm. Now here's what you really need to understand. Each one of these habits alone significantly increases your nighttime cardiovascular risk. But together, when multiple habits combine, they create a perfect storm of cardiovascular danger. The risks don't just add together, they multiply, they amplify each other. A person who eats late, skips medications occasionally, has untreated sleep apnea, goes to bed dehydrated, and sleeps in a room that's too hot or too cold is courting disaster every single night. Each habit compounds the damage of the others. Thick blood from dehydration flows more slowly and clots more easily. Sleep apnea spikes blood pressure repeatedly. Late meals keep the sympathetic nervous system activated. Medication non-adherence allows those spikes to go unchecked. Temperature extremes add additional stress. The truth is both painful and empowering. Most nighttime heart attacks and strokes are not inevitable. They are not purely genetic destiny. They are not random bad luck. They are preventable through knowledge and consistent action. You don't need expensive medical treatments to implement these protections. You don't need extreme lifestyle overhauls. You need 3 things: awareness, which you now have through this information; commitment, the decision to actually implement these changes; and consistency, following through night after night, not just occasionally when you remember. Before you leave this video, I'm asking you to do 4 important things. First, subscribe to this channel. Second, like this video. Likes help this message reach more people through YouTube's algorithm, people who may not know they're at risk. Third, leave a comment below. Write, "I'm changing this tonight," or "starting the heart-safe routine tonight." Your public commitment increases your likelihood of following through. And fourth, share this video with someone you genuinely care about.